Eloise, take it away. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone, because I'm calling in from Scotland. I'm just outside Edinburgh, and it is approaching evening time here, so you're lucky I haven't got the wine in the hand yet. So I am a linguist and consultant, and I work in the sort of intersection between sales and language, and I help companies close the gap between what they think they're saying and what is actually being heard by their customers. I was once voted the least likely to be a metal fan by my university, so there's your fun fact rather than an ice cream flavor. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of our discussion for you today, Riaan.
Awesome, Amy. Beat
that was brilliant. So we're just gonna let you talk the whole time, Eloise.
Charmer.
Yeah, I'll try. I won't try my British accent because with the linguists in the house, it'll be a bit embarrassing. But yeah, so I'm Amy Quick. Okay, well, I'm going to start with my fun fact then. I was voted most likely to throw a party or to know where one was. So that was my superlative for school. I don't know if that's a redeeming quality or not. But I come to you from Fortinet today. I'm a territory account manager here for the states of Mississippi and Alabama on our SMB team, selling some cybersecurity. And fun fact, right before I took this call, I got a cold call, which is the first one I've gotten in a while. And I actually turned around and double booked him. I booked myself a meeting with him and then also booked him for 5 on Friday. So it was like a twofer. So that's my fun fact for the day.
Awesome. Charles.
Sorry, I missed you guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, I had some trouble with my headset. Hi, Charles Muhlbauer. Very nice to meet everybody. I am the head sales coach at a company called CB Insights. We have about 100 people on our sales/business development team, and I'm here to make them more effective. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Jack.
I'm also in New York City right now, in Manhattan.
Lovely. Beautiful. Jack.
I'm just going to claim Boston because I'm from a little tiny town in Massachusetts that nobody knows about. And since I don't have a cool accent, I'm just going to say things like wicked hard the whole time. So people think I'm cooler than I am. I'm a rebel. I'm a dad. I'm a sales coach. I'm a mentor, and I'm a sales leader. And, you know, I've had a 15+ year-long career in sales spanning from anything from human resources to banking and finance, all the way to IT. And recently I just went out on my own to do fractional VP of sales work for emerging brands and startups, and with the Sales Rebellion, coaching one-on-one, helping sales professionals create experiences and create long-lasting relationships and community.
Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, well, Riaan, you've got some really sharp folks here. We've got a little bit of context in terms of, you know, what you do. And so, you know, the floor is yours. I think, you know, you could probably dovetail into what you shared with us and, you know, explain maybe again, the challenge maybe you're running into when you're selling or trying to promote the service you offer. And then I think, you know, we can figure out how we give you feedback today, whether it's in some kind of a role play of a scenario or just, you know, one-on-one, we'll give you some feedback.
Well, thank you very much. You all, with all those credentials, have me very nervous now because I thought this was a chat with me, Francois, and a few other people around a table with a few bottles of wine, but this is probably better. So thank you very much for your time. I'm calling in from Turkey, and the fun fact is I've got no idea how much data I've got left on my SIM card. So if I get cut out, I have a backup SIM, so I'll have to switch over, but it will take me a minute or two. So just bear with me if that happens, because there's no system here to actually check what you've got left. But I managed to escape England, where the base of the business is normally, and I'm for the winter, I'm out in Turkey. So there, I'm very lucky. I've had a barbecue on the beach tonight, and then I got to this call. So not in the UK at the moment. I know it's terrible.
Ooh, we might
and
be
the East Coast.
Yeah.
I think you're still there, Riaan. You kind of, we lost you for a second.
Unfortunately, it is going to come and go. That's the nature of the Turkish SIM card deal that I've got. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. I think I will jump into it. I'm looking for a few things today. We don't have a dedicated sales, you know, people. I am the sales of the business, and I'm also the CEO and doing a few other things, etc. And we are two founders in the business, and my co-founder is more focused on marketing, lead generation, finance, etc. Whereas I'm trying to get us new business. I am from the industry, and I think with my name and the way it's spelt in the name, it is a name that is remembered by people, which counts in my favor. And so I also have very good direct relationships with agency owners and people that are in my target audience. So I can pick up a phone and call an agency owner and talk to them. And I think that is working quite well for us. What's not working is the sales cycle. The sales cycle at the moment is quite long. It can be up to a year. And we have a goal this year to bring it down to 3 months. The retention is high, so I'm not worried about that. But the sales cycle worries us a little bit. We've changed tack, and I'm just giving you this as background, and I'll jump into the other role play. But we've changed tack this year to instead of trying other methods of lead generation, which included, buying email addresses, cold calling, email, etc. We are focusing 100% on LinkedIn, and it's absolutely worked out very well so far from the lead generation perspective. From the what the hell do we do with those leads and what do we do next with them, that's still in the making. But I have gained more contacts that I want to talk to in the past 6 months than I would have ever gained in 3 years of any other methods. So that's worked out really, really well for us. And, I've got some posts now that are reaching on average, my posts are doing well, and I would say I'm reaching the right people. But I recently have a post that's still active that's reaching 32,000, 33,000 type views. And it's going well in that direction. So I'm quite happy with that. Okay. So, you might want to just tell me a little bit about how this process is supposed to work. Do I just pretend you are potential leads and I jump straight into it?
Yeah, I think, and everybody feel free to jump in after me if you have a question, but I think what would be super helpful for us is you gave us a little bit of context, and then maybe we could do, if a role play is right, but I think Charles, maybe you're wondering, or Jack, or Eloise, or everyone, what is that sales cycle look like at a high level? And then even what is that first interaction, so if Jack is a potential customer, you're reaching out to him, like you said, either LinkedIn, maybe email. And then once you talk to him, I'm assuming you give him some context of what the steps are and what it would look like for him to become a client. And maybe that would be like, maybe that initial conversation is one we could role play might be helpful. I'm not sure, but anybody else want to help give some context there? Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
I just have 2 questions. I want to know what your current or hopeful average sales price is. I don't know what that is because it takes a year, so I don't know how much it costs. And then number 2, I just don't. Maybe I'm unprepared, so I apologize. I don't know if you can just tell us the problems you solve for. That would be helpful to understand as well, whenever you feel that.
Yeah, I think that the difficulty with this call is that it is so industry specific. So we work in the travel industry, which I guarantee you, all of you guys thought are dead. So, it still exists and it's still very active out there. And we work with corporate travel agents. We fit into a niche where the existing technology supplies to them, the traditional booking system and reservation systems and suppliers of technology to them are not as able to, they're not focused on them as a customer, because actually the travel agent is not the customer of those reservation systems.
It's a dramatic pause.
I think it's the airlines, right?
Yeah, airlines. That's right. Airlines are the customer reservation systems, whereas the travel agents are not. The problem we solve for the agency is, what the hell is going on in your agency today? Get a grip. Let me solve that problem for you, and let me put the booking data that you generate to good use for you. Because other industries use sales data, again, and get it back and reuse it, etc. The travel industry throws it away. And so, the travel industry, the actual travel agents, they have a continuous need to demonstrate their value to the airlines as a valuable distribution chain, but they don't have, sales methodologies and reuse of. They don't retail. That's the short of it. We hope to give them the data in order to retail, but also to solve daily problems. Make them more operationally functional. That was too long an answer. I'm sorry about that. I mean, what we try and do is make them more efficient at using their data better.
Okay. Can I ask? Anybody else have any questions? I don't want to hog the floor.
Sorry, Charles. You asked me two questions. I only answered one. The first question you asked me was about the value. So in the US, the North American markets, our typical customer, because we will charge based on the volume of bookings they produce in a year. So for a typical customer, which is up to 100,000 bookings a year, which is, the average sort of sweet spot agent we go for anyway, the monthly fee is $750. So the yearly is $9,000. We don't achieve that value elsewhere. We achieve a lower fee of about $650 a month globally. But in North America, we've tried higher and they've said yes. So we keep it at that. We think we could even go a little bit higher, but we're currently selling there at about $750 a month. So we've just recently signed an agent in Kansas City. Charles, you actually look like that customer, surprisingly.
I hope that's a compliment.
Well, he's a Kansas City fan, so I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I don't know. I know nothing about that sport. So, so for them, they have lots of systems in place, but they don't have what we offer, which is just that daily grip on what did I do 5 minutes ago? What problems am I facing tomorrow? What should I pay attention to? How productive am I? What are my staff doing? Where do I have opportunities for selling, Charles an extra hotel night, or Francois an extra this, or, Eloise an extra that. So we address several issues for them. I think a key challenge for us in the sales process is early on identifying who's the persona we're talking to. We've done a lot of work on identifying the types of personas in the call. So if you are in operations at the agency, the ops director, we are your number one solution. Our biggest fan at an agency is the operations director. The operations director, however, is not a decision maker. So you have to make sure that you include the thinking of the decision maker, which normally would be the owner or the investor in the business. And for them, it's all about staff productivity. They don't really care about operational efficiency or errors coming up or any of that. They want to know, are my staff wasting their time? Are they productive? And we can tell them that exactly. And so to help us with that, we've structured a presentation that has all the areas up front. And depending on who the person is we talk to, we can then jump to that section and come back. And I learned that from Russ. I don't know, his surname is not Cucumber, but it's Russ McCumber on LinkedIn. He is quite good with giving you decks that help you with that. So we figured that out early on. Yes,
just
exactly.
To interject that, I'd absolutely call him Russ Cucumber moving forward.
I can never remember that surname. So, so I would like your feedback on that as well, because we've only had 2 opportunities to use that deck in sales pitches, and so far it's worked. Etc. So sorry, Charles, you had another question.
I don't know.
That's all I have for now. Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts from anyone else or questions? I mean, right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eloise. Go ahead.
Thanks. So Riaan, I would like to know how much money do you save a business? Because if I was a CEO or if I was an investor, I'm keen to hear about productivity for sure, because that also adds to my bottom line. But how much money could you, in theory, be saving me, either by maximizing opportunities as they present themselves, or by reducing costs because of errors that could be avoided? Can you quantify that? I mean, I imagine it varies, but on average, what have you got?
Yeah, there's always someone who asks the difficult questions, right? I shouldn't answer. No, that's fair enough. It varies by markets, which is the other slight challenge we have, because we operate from a small agency in Tanzania through to a large, professional agency like, Ascendus Travel in Kansas City, where the dollar value is very different. There are some definite things we put down in numbers. So, From a time savings perspective, it's all about their labor cost. And again, that varies greatly. So that's difficult to put down as a number for them, etc. But we currently say for the agency, what was the last fine, if you want, that you received? We call them ADMs, as they're airline debit memos. And what was that mistake for? That's a common question we asked them at the beginning of the call. We said, what was the last ADM you received? And they said, oh, it was for not issuing the ticket in time. It's a very common answer. And then we say, what was that ADM for? And they would normally say it was for like $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500. That's the average. And so we said to them, we could absolutely have prevented that error for you. Definitely, because that's the number one thing our other agents tell us. So we then ask them, how many of those did you get in the last 6 months? And then we say, well, if it's about 3 or 4, we can easily say we can cut out about $3,000 to $5,000 of cost within the first 6 months, just on error prevention. That's not labor savings or time savings or customer retention or scalability of your service for customers, etc. I'm not as well prepared on that question as I should be, Eloise. I should try and figure out labor costs in the market maybe before I speak to that customer, which would be a good idea.
It might be helpful to create some kind of formula. And again, don't really want to like hog the kind of floor here either. But I think that it's, if you can create some kind of formula that says, look, this is how you can go and qualify, or how we can qualify before we even speak to you as part of your due diligence before that sales call, is to look at and say, hey, I've taken a look at the kind of average costings for your industry, and based on the kind of commonalities we see from our industry expertise of you making an average of like 5 to 6 hours every 6 months, we can save you projected up to X amount of costs, and that's just on trends. If you have hidden areas that you don't even know, you could be, pardon my language, peeing money up the wall that you don't even see. So we're going to help you find the blind spots that are costing you that you can't even figure out for yourselves, and that way you amplify in their mind the amount of money they could potentially be saving.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll add to that. Did everyone just hear that Eloise said peeing money up the wall?
I'm gonna steal that. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. And my first thought, Charles, was like using that. But Riaan, the one thing I've been taking notes, and I've got this like big blank space here that is define sales cycle. And I think that a lot of the questions that are going to come up from us are going to be as a result of kind of not understanding what your current sales cycle and process is. So, you mentioned that you're getting most of your leads from LinkedIn, and then you don't really know what to do with them from there. So that leads me to kind of want to know a little bit more about, okay, well, what is your actual sales process? I mean, how are you making that introduction to get people kind of hooked in? And then where does it go from there? Because the goal here is to shorten your sales cycle from 12 months to 3 months. And so that is going to be by eliminating redundancy in your sales process, articulating more clearly, like Eloise said, kind of getting out in front of the data a little bit, and being able to come up with some really good, not necessarily marketing jargon, but just really good one-liners that say, you have this problem and this is how we fix it, and this is what we can guarantee you by partnering with us, and getting kind of some of those, oh, I'm really not prepared for this answer, but getting prepared now and having those answers in place, that's going to be the key to shortening your sales cycle right there in a nutshell. So I'm kind of curious, and I know Jack's going to weigh in on this too, but if you could walk us through really short, kind of succinct, what is your current sales process kind of from start to finish in that 12-month window of time to get people onboarded?
And Jack, feel free to jump in before, because I know I could see the twitch there. You were like,
I was just going to say, thanks, Amy. I'm never going to take notes again because you just capture everything I write down and ask it for me. So like I've outsourced my role on this entire experiment. One thing I would add to that is, so all of the things that she said, outline your sales process, kind of tell us what's the driving force behind why you want to shrink it down. But here's another thing. So like, why is it 12 months? Okay, but why 3? Is that just because it's something that you want, because it would be beneficial to your business, or it's because it's something you've identified that is an industry standard that you can actually make happen with those customers? Let's make sure that that 3-month goal is a realistic goal and fits the buying sort of habits of your potential customers as well.
Okay, there's a ton of feedback there. Thank you very much. Let me start with Eloise. I love the idea of having a formula on cost savings, and I've written that down, and I'll definitely get someone else to do that for me because I'm not going to do it. So that's great. So thank you very much. Is it Amy, right? The note taker for Jack. So let's start at the reverse. Your last question was why 3 months? Because we recently achieved a 3-month sales cycle and we analyzed why that was. And so we know it's possible. Then we compared that to why was it before so long? And we've got some answers on that. There's been a few factors at play. Number one, we actually learn how to do sales, sales itself, by getting sales training and testing things and evaluating things, etc., and working out what works and what doesn't work. The other thing is we started, the reason why the last sale was a 3-month sales cycle versus the others that took much longer, up to a year. I mean, not every sales took a year, some took less, but up to a year, is that lead contacted us as a result of the messaging we were sending out on LinkedIn and on the change we had in our website. We relaunched the website late last year, which were only based on the messaging that our existing customers were giving us, their words, not our words. So everything on there is nothing we thought of. Everything on our website, all the headlines, all the taglines, all the wording, etc., is based on what customers were telling us in either support tickets, just chats with them, interviews, etc., etc. And I do think, I know that's made a difference, because this lead that came to us, this last example, the guy in Kansas City, he contacted us to say, look, what you are saying on LinkedIn sounds interesting. What I've read on your website sounds great. Can we book a demo? And from that day, the demo to them saying, yes, let's do it, was about 3 months. And so, the answers are all there, that before we were putting out messaging that were us thinking how our product should be talked about. We were not generating the right sort of lead. And when we got to someone, it wasn't a decision maker. And that whole process then went, back to, oh, I'll take your message to the decision maker. And we know that doesn't work because it gets watered down. It doesn't work. It's not the same enthusiasm, etc. So we know now that if the lead comes to us with a mindset of, I'm interested in your product, tell me more, we can do the sale much quicker, which is, of course, nothing new, but we were not doing that. And then you asked me some questions on what is the current sales cycle like, etc., and what do we promise? We've always shied away from demos for lots of reasons, including cost. But what we have done now is created a demo site, created a mock fictitious agency called Red Sky Travel. And with GDPR in mind, we created real bookings, but changed the names and other details out. It's because bookings have they are alive and they constantly update and change, etc. So to do that as a demo is quite difficult. So we actually got copies of real bookings, changed our names, and now we can give a serious, interesting lead access to that demo for a bit, and that seems to help as well. But that was a stumbling block before, because a lot of agents say, oh, can I trial the product for 3 months, etc. Now, in my sales training, I've learned, and it does work, I do ask, what is it that you're going to validate? Why can't we eradicate that doubt now? What can we do to put your mind at ease about that doubt right now? So that does work very, very well. We also say to some prospects who are still lingering there, which also changed from before, which we didn't do, but now we say to them, you can always, if it's like the 10th of the month, start now. We can get you up and running. And if by the end of the month you're not convinced, let's not continue. It's fine. There's your trial. If you want, it gives you enough time. So we have changed that approach quite dramatically, and it seems to be working, but it's obviously not perfect. We recently had a failed sales call, and the key reason there was that They didn't come to us. They were referrals from an existing customer, which is a process we do ask. The day the customer says yes, we ask them for 2 referrals. So they kind of felt obliged to do the call, and they were not decision makers. So those 2 reasons really didn't work out well.
So do you think? Go ahead, Eloise. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Francois. So just a couple of questions there. I have a question, first one about how are you handling objections from people? So when people object to what it is that you're selling, why is it that they're kind of bringing those objections up, and how are you either proactively neutralizing and navigating them, or how are you closing that sale? Because it sounds like there's not a coherent closing process. And like maybe you give everyone the information that they need and they have a look at that trial, and then you say, okay, well, let's change the timing for you, and you'll come in on the 10th and you'll have your free trial. So what's the transition? You know, either you need to put salt in the wound at their pain point of, look, if you don't close on this, you're going to be, I'm not suggesting you do this as a fairly aggressive strategy, but if you don't close on this, you're potentially losing up to $35,000 a year. You know, that would make me close on something pretty quickly for $9 grand.
Yeah.
The other thing, the other side of that is also, are 2 referrals on the same day as someone says yes the most appropriate approach? Would it be better to create more of an ambassador, a real advocate and a champion within that industry after using the platform for a month's time, really hold their hand, onboard them with it, make them feel really comfortable, and then ask for an honest recommendation on the back of the experience they've had? I think you get a lot more evangelists that way. I understand the speed and the impetus in converting 2 referrals from 1 lead. It's a great way to grow your pipeline. But in terms of what that's caused regarding a failed sales call, if I didn't get the right person in front of me and they felt obliged to sit there because someone else had told them to, that's going to put me off immediately. You're not warming up that lead. You're going from cold to hot, and you're not going through the stages of warming up and getting them really involved in your product. So I wonder, that's a lot, I know, but I wonder if there are a couple of things to look at there in terms of objections and then time and strategy.
Yeah, very good points. I mean, there's a little bit of method or madness in that method, or method in that madness about the asking them on the day they close, because they're so excited and they are wanting to validate that decision there and then. Also, the decision maker tends not to be that involved in the product after implementation. So trying to get them to be still excited about it a month later, or get their time and honest recommendation, because it's their team that gets the benefit of it. I think the mistake I made with the referral was I should make sure the referral is a decision maker at the other agency, is someone that will respect that. Whereas what he did was he gave me 2 people who was doing him a favor to say, yeah, we'll sit on the call, etc. But I don't dish that idea of going back a month later. I like the idea of the fans. Amy, you also said that there now. In other markets, we have achieved that. So in South Africa, my home country, originally, we've dominated the market there with that technique, because the industry is very small and they all talk to one another, et cetera, and we spotted early on a few influencers or affluent leaders in the market. And when they talk about our product, the others feel left out and they joined in. And so that technique does definitely work. We can certainly do with far more champions, out there talking about our product and how it benefited them. We are a bit, we've got that, what is that syndrome, imposter syndrome all the time, where you can't really believe the customer is achieving success of your product, whereas they are. We've just discovered this with a customer in Northern Ireland, where they are in a group, and we wanted to go back to them to evaluate whether they would participate in either a video or a case study or a testimonial of something for the rest of the group, to see how well they are using the product. And the product has made such a massive difference in their business, and we weren't taking note of that and picking up on that, because they are now excited about talking about that, which is exactly what we wanted. But you don't always believe that in your own product, do you? You always think it will do okay, but it's not going to make a massive difference to their business. But it does. It actually did make a difference to their business. They took us on during the pandemic, which was incredible.
Do you think that confidence, that questioning of confidence internally is, in a sense, maybe projecting in your sales cycle a little bit?
It could well do. It could well do.
That's when I think you have to to level up in the confidence that you have in what you've created and what you know you can provide. And the end, you know what the outcome is going to be already. So I think when you're operating within your sales cycle, you know, you're an industry expert. That's it, hands down.
Yeah.
I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but when I'm on calls with my customer, I have full confidence that what I'm discussing with them, what I'm talking to them, you know, I'm coming across as, you know, as much of an expert as I can be. And I'm very confident in the solution that I'm putting forward. So I think that maybe that's a little bit in your sales cycle, is that I think you need to form two different sales cycles. One is going to be for those warm inbound leads, the fan-led leads. You know, they're going to come from other customers that are making recommendations, because, you know, even though they didn't buy this time, right, that you didn't have the decision maker kind of sold, doesn't mean that they won't buy in 6 months. You know, I mean, there's any number of reasons why they didn't go forward with you, whether it's a competitor or budget or whatever. So they can always regurgitate within your sales cycle. So I think that's one strategy that you need to implement, is warm leads and referrals, which are essentially warm.
I think like to kind of piggyback off that, sorry to jump in on you, but one thing is, like you mentioned, imposter syndrome, right? All it takes is one win. And what you need is, when you get that one win for your customer, parlay that win into more wins. And what I mean by that is, you're taking that use case and you're speaking that story to yourself and to your organization internally. So you're saying to everyone inside, hey, look what we did. We're going to get the metrics like Eloise talked about. Here's the revenue savings, or here's the outcomes that we drove. We're going to take that, we're going to turn it into marketing material on the inbound side so we can celebrate that, create more champions like you talked about. But then we're also going to take that, we're going to turn it into our prospecting language. Hey, Mr. Prospect, this is what we did for people like you. Here's what it looks like. And then you're interjecting that into your closing language. This is what you're missing out on by not moving forward in a timely manner. So you could take one win and you could sprinkle that across your entire sales process. I want to go back to the 3-month demo. So when I hear you talk about having a 3-month demo, go ahead if you have a question.
Well, we didn't answer all of Eloise's questions, because she was asking me what are the reasons why things don't, what are the reasons why customers don't say yes on the call, or what are the things holding back. So maybe we could just talk about that for a second. One of the most common things we hear is, I don't have time to implement this now. And so we've been really working hard on trying to figure out, how do we convey to the customer that it's really easy to take us on, and we will help you, and you don't have to worry about it, and we will hold your hand. It is obviously, most of the times, is a bit of a BS excuse. They just go, this sounds great, I just don't have the time to do it now. So I'd be interested to hear what you think about that response normally. Some of the other reasons are, it depends on the market. So not in the Americas, but in some of the other markets, is cost. I mean, the European agents are on their knees and being hit over the heads. They just cannot even pay for the lights to be kept on at the moment. So cost is a real issue. They just can't pay for anything at the moment. And given where we are in the world and what the pandemic is like, there's not much we can do about that one at the moment. It's never really, there's an alternative product. We don't have that, because we just don't seem to have strong competition in the space at all. And I think before, in the way we do the presentation now, before we might have lost the person by not being on the right persona. So they trailed off, and they were looking for something else in their head, and we were talking about all these benefits, but it didn't really fit their job, and they're not interested in that. So those could be the reasons.
Charles, it looked like you had some thoughts on the first objection.
Well, it's a general thought. It won't be very long. I don't know, Riaan, I'm pronouncing your name correctly, correct? I've never heard how you run an actual, I'll call it a discovery conversation. That's all I teach here at my company's Discovery. I don't know how it sounds like, and of course from this conversation, I also wouldn't know. With that said, I'm going to say 2 things, and please correct me if you feel that I'm wrong. I welcome pushback. One, a lot of the things that I'm hearing you say are how you can help people, which is wonderful. What I'm not hearing you say as part of my first statement or maybe I don't know how you're presenting it, is I don't know what your questions look like to the prospect, and I'm just making one up, so it may not be great. But while you're talking to them, if you're saying things like, hey, Bob, out of curiosity, thanks for taking the call, after you have some exchange, whatever, we're ignoring the structure of the call. I'm not sure how to ask this, but when was the last time, or how often would you say you track the money that you maybe missed out on with, the ADMs not issuing the ticket in time? I'm not sure if anybody's ever asked you that before, and I'm not sure if that's ever something you thought about, but I was curious to learn more. So that's like just one question that I'm just thinking of out of the air, because I don't know to what extent you are empowering them to think about what might be a problem, as opposed to you on the phone telling them how you can help them, right?
Yeah.
I want you to focus on what they have to lose is way more important than focusing on what they have to gain. So if you were on a call, and this is the second thing I'll say, so if you wanted a call, and in the structure of the call, it's kind of like A, B, and C. The purpose of the call is to get an understanding of how you guys operate with regard to, again, all I know about are the ADM, so part of my ignorance there.
Yeah.
Purpose of the call is to learn more about your business, give you some context on what we do, how we work with other agencies to save them money. And if we're fit, great. If not, that's okay too. Cool. First question is, can you help me understand when it comes to ADMs or whatever other things you solve for? Curious how you guys go about, how you guys book or how you guys operate in general, right? And then the second question is, cool, to give you some context, we work with a lot of different agencies. They tell us that a lot of times they don't really know how much money they're losing on ADMs. They haven't really thought about B, C, or D. I'm curious to what extent you've thought about any of those, and if not, what might come to mind, right? So again, I don't know how your conversations are being structured, but my point is, I just want to make sure ultimately one day you have the conversation is more about you sharing with them the issues that you're hearing, and to what extent have they thought about it, so that they can think about, oh, we never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Where you can go to, do you think that might be worth discussing? So I know I said a lot, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not
that's
used to
good.
speaking so much.
But on the back of that, you also then give them the context for you to couch your solution in. So rather than just saying, this is how I'm going to help you, what you've done is you've looked at, hey, this is what sucks. And we rubbed some salt in that wound. And now in your mind, you're playing through all that money you've potentially lost. I'm going to come in with a solution that says, hey, we're going to save you that and more. You're far more ready mentally, linguistically to hear a solution because you've primed the person for it. Like the best way to close is to do discovery. And also you then find out for your own lead time, is this person worth my time? Because if you're just saying, hey, this is how I'm going to help you, and they're going, oh yeah, that sounds kind of good, but I don't know if I have the time. If you can discover to find out if they're in a position to make that happen, it saves you wasting time on the wrong leads. So it means that your sales process is much more efficient as a result of that.
I hate to say pain sells, but it does,
Well, and pouring salt on the wounds, like I love how Eloise keeps saying like pour salt on the wounds, but you know what's really weird? When you just like dump salt on somebody. So, because you mentioned sometimes you're not in front of the right persona. So you might be just dumping salt everywhere and like, dude, what is going on? So be very transparent up front before discovery about, hey, sometimes we get in front of the wrong people and we're talking about really valuable stuff and it just lands on the wrong ears. Who else should be involved in this process that you think could benefit from this conversation? And how do we bring them to the table in a way that fits their life and their schedule? So just be right out front and honest about making sure you're inviting other parties to that table. And like, if you're feeling like, man, I might be missing something, it's okay to vocalize that. Like nothing feels better to your prospect than when you become more human. So if you even say, hey, I feel like I might be missing something, is there someone else on your team or who else on your team needs to be involved? So I love just going right at your own hesitation in your mind with your prospect. Makes
you seem more confident too, and confident about the solution you're selling. When you're not afraid to drive that call. That's been hands down. I started with Fortinet 3 quarters ago, right? And when I started, I didn't know the product, I mean, cybersecurity, I came from selling a different software solution. And I had to fake it, you know, like right up front out the gate. And one of the things that I fell back on was driving those business conversations, because the pain is great, but also the business side of it is hugely beneficial. And it's going to cut through all of that noise and that chatter. And it's going to get you down from, you know, some of these dragging out for 12 months, which could be closed in like 5 months, for instance. And these are cold leads. So like, you know, net new, just cold as the crisp, like snow on the ground leads, right? That you could close in a much shorter amount of time just by cutting through some of that noise. But I mentioned earlier something, Riaan, that Patrick has done in the past, and I'm gonna throw him under the bus here because he's really good at it. But he does this thing where he like chases like a thread of pain almost, and kind of how he's, and this isn't going to work for everyone, but I want to like to kind of build off of what we're saying as far as like how you discuss pain and show them like, hey, this is the problem, you know, this is the problem, and we're kind of the solution that could come along and be the balm that saves you. But I wanted Patrick to demo that because it was really, really good. So no pressure there, Patrick, but I'm putting you in the hot seat.
That's fine. Just having a massive panic attack.
Patrick is an actual person because he's been so still and quiet. I thought he was like
I'm just listening.
He's just a creeper.
I still don't know. I'm very creepy. And I keep hearing your name. Is it Riaan? I just want to make
It's Riaan.
Riaan? Okay. Riaan, awesome. The first thing I like to start with is an exercise around what usually happens. Like, what's the big, bad, terrible, catastrophic, awful thing right before somebody were like pick up the phone or go to a lead form to say, I need your help? Like, what's the actual event?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think a challenge we have as a solution is that we sometimes highlight a problem that the agency is not aware that we can solve for them. So they don't think of us as the solution to a problem because they're not technically savvy. They don't even know it's possible. They don't even know it's something that can be done.
But what's happening with your customer?
What is the problem though? Like
what's
let's
up
say
with
they
all
did know
this?
you exist.
The problem is the customer completely mucks up a very important client's itinerary, and they call in from the airport in a real panic and say, I thought you were a great agent and you completely mucked this up. So I'm gonna take my account away and I'm gonna go to your competitor. So that happens. So they lose a customer.
Like a chargeback.
And with our software, they could have been in control of that booking and see that error. Sorry, the connection seems to say, but they could see that error before that happens. That's a real scenario. Or they could forget to issue a ticket in time and then lose the space on the booking, and then they can't get that back because the flight is now sold out, and then they have to call the customer and explain, oh, I have to rebook you on another booking now because, you know, I mucked up your booking. Those things happen.
Gotcha. I assume that's probably a story you tell in your sales pitch, right?
So my connection dropped a little bit there. I don't know what you got from that.
I got everything.
Okay.
I just said, is that like a part of your sales pitch? Like you tell that story about that sort of circumstance?
It's part of the discovery because we know they will tell us that in the discovery, and so we tend, because what's counting really big in our favor is that these problems are global. They're not unique to a North American agent or an African agent or an Asian agent. They happen everywhere. It's a really nice industry to work in because the problems are global. So we tend to hear those stories and we tend to go, this is how we solve that for other customers, or we say our other customers told us exactly that same thing, and this is how we solve the problem for them. I am kind of keen to show you my opening slide on the deck. I don't know whether you guys are big screening my feed or whether you are wanting me to screen share, because I can do either. I can do it like this, which is the Russ cucumber methods, or I can go share screen if it's too small. But I just want to show you the one slide that's the way we get over the where do you fit in and what should we talk about today, because we know that the call can go on for too long and we can lose the the person's interest. And so we obviously have a little bit about you, about us, but then we tend to ask them on this call, you know, what has recently happened in your business that you want to talk to us about, or what has been a problem for you, or, you know, what on the screen stands out as something you really want us to solve in your business for you today. And if it's an operations person, they're going to talk about gaining control. If it's a owner of a business, they're going to talk about customer service or automation or increasing their revenue, etc. So that helps us guide the conversation, because the way this deck works is once we go to section 7 and we end it, it will come back to the screen, and then we can do the next one and the next one and the next one, etc. Before, Charles, in a minute, before we get to that, we obviously have had a discovery, because they have to tell us a few things about their business before they come on the call. We don't just take the call blind. We, you didn't see our the call to action is a process on Calendly, which asks them a few questions: who's going to be on the call, what their roles are, what the agency is, what systems they use, where they're located, etc. They have to tell us those things before we take the call, because that allows us to do a bit of homework, visit their website, find them on LinkedIn, all that stuff, etc. So we know who's on the call. Those are only recent changes we've been making in our business. Last year, before this sort of grown-up process, we took whatever call we can get and sort of blagged it through. It was horrible, absolutely horrible.
Go ahead, Charles.
So,
I'm just gonna say, I wanted to say one thing, if I can share my screen. What I was hoping the deck you would show me, Riaan, would actually list out.
Go ahead, Charles. You can share.
Would actually list out this, like challenges we're hearing. You know what I mean? I know you mentioned that there's a bit of that about in the prospecting part, how people reach out to you, how you reach out to them. Eloise and Jack and Amy were talking about, you know, the problems that you talk about. But when you're on a discovery call, it would be cool if you had some sort of challenge slide. Hey, by the way, this is what we hear all day. Maybe you can tell me what actually resonates, and then we could kind of take the conversation from there, as opposed to maybe your slide, which is more of a little bit more generic, and also a bit more of a solutions. This, we can help you do this, help you do that. I don't even want to go there. I want to be like, these are the challenges that people are telling us, what resonates, and we could take it from there. So that's just one little thing I wanted to point out.
No, I really like that a lot, because like I said to you, we've only tried this pitch once, and it doesn't necessarily work. I didn't say it doesn't work. It might not be working. We don't know. I like that idea of starting with the common issues we're hearing, because you can then map it to. I mean, I'll take the issue of automation. You could say a common issue we hear is that your company, your clients expect you to email them on a Friday all their bookings, but you're getting your staff to do it. So inevitably someone's going to forget to do it, or inevitably someone's going to copy the wrong, booking into the email and send the wrong email to the wrong person. That's a common issue. We automate that for you and send you a scheduled email with an attachment to the client, so it can't go wrong. So I like that. So it's just the other way around. Instead of starting with the automation, you start with the problem and say, which of these problems stand out to you that you want to talk about?
Correct. And then you talk about it for a while, way before you talk about a solution. That problem number 2 resonates with us, Riaan. Cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then you're starting talking about their stuff that's not working before you
It makes a lot of sense, because in the sales training as well, you're obviously taught that you should talk about the customer's issues and shut up and wait, and then talk about how you solve it. So yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
And I would take it one step even farther than that. I'm going to share something ridiculous on my screen that I did not invent. I saw this shared by somebody else.
Oh, I love this. This is great.
So hold on.
It was there.
Josh Braun.
So basically, like, your customer's little Mario, right? No mushroom. He's not big. If a turtle hits him, he's done, right? Your product is the flower. Right now, you're like, look at this beautiful flower. And that's it. And they're like, sweet, I got other flowers. I got a mushroom. I got this frog suit that makes me swim. But what they need to hear is, no, you can spit fire. So when you avoid those costly ADMs, you're the hero for your end customer who's never missing that trip, who's never getting rebooked on a different flight, who always comes back to me, the agent, and says, you made me look like an absolute badass in front of my customer. So you're selling the flower right now. You need to sell your customer doing rad shit. And I think that's like really what Charles hit on the head is like, deliver it according to their pain, but then tell them the future state that they really want.
Well,
Yeah.
and Patrick, is the pain thread that Amy wanted you to drag Riaan through, essentially highlighting all these painful things, and you know the customer's basically telling this awful story, and at the end, you know, you go, well, don't we want to like see where we've ended up? Let's figure
What
out.
if we can help you with that? What if, you know, what would it look like to you if that problem didn't exist? You
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
and so
yeah.
that's huge. I mean, then it gets the wheels turning. So like if I'm selling, I don't know, we have this product called Forta Manager, right? Which is like centralized management. Okay. And I could feature the crap out of that and I could sell the product. But really what I'm selling is the end result, which is, hey, you know what? Like in a nutshell, it makes your life easier because you can manage everything from one screen and all of your devices are in that one screen. And as an IT director, you don't have to log into 50,000 things to fix a problem. It's all right there, which makes your day a hell of a lot shorter when it comes to that component of your day. And I'll even quantify it with how many hours out of the day do you spend like chasing alarms and fire bells and blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, the only reason why it benefits them in any way is it makes their day-to-day job easier. And it's that simple. And then you can kind of backtrack a little bit and show them how, you know, you're able to simplify it. But that's the showing them that end goal and that kind of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. When you've kind of identified the pain, ouch, this hurts, here's this beautiful balm and kind of what you're going to experience at the end of this. Now let's backtrack and I'll tell you how we get there. And that's kind of every conversation with it. It works really well.
And I should know this because we do have those conversations sometimes where the customer, you know, that can you imagine a world where that pain is away, where they even say to us, man, I would, you know, I would die to have that. I would really, really like that. So yeah, I know that does work very well.
Don't make them imagine that world. You paint that picture for them.
Yeah.
Like it's on the best, most high def picture screen they've ever seen in their life. So they have no choice but to be like, that is the world that I want to live in too. That's great. Yeah. Can I give you something like quick tactical though, that I kind of want to circle back to before I forget. So if you're drumming up all this pain and then you're delivering this beautiful picture of what you're going to do about it, one thing that happens is next thing you know, now you give them a 3-month trial of your product.
So sorry, we don't give a trial.
What was the 3-month period that you said they could use it and experiment with it?
Like a demo environment?
Yeah, we have a demo environment that they can come and play and get a feel for the UI and so on. But there's no time issue on that. It's just if there really is a sort of lingering resistance by an ops person that's not convinced, we say, hey, log into our demo environment. The other way, it works the other way around as well. Sometimes we have convinced an operations director, but he or she is not the decision maker, but they really want the product. And so they want us to come and demo it to the decision maker. And one of the things we try and do there is we say, take the login for the demo and you go and show it to your decision maker when you get the right moment, because you want the product. And that we think we are about to do a sale like that for an agency in Johannesburg. The ops director there is completely sold on a product. She really wants it. She's got the login to our demo now, and she's going to show it to her boss without us. And we hope that works. But we don't do a trial. No, sorry if I
no worries. Can you shrink that period? So you're giving them access to all this great stuff, and us as humans, if you give us an open-ended period of time, we're going to fill it with the task at hand. So if you're saying, hey, carte blanche, here's some access to this environment that you can share with your team, can we put some bookends on that and start to shrink your process tactfully?
But just to explain, they can't do anything with it. It doesn't give them any results because it's not their booking data. It's our demo data. So they can't actually do something with it. But we are very conscious of this is one of the reasons why we don't do a demo on their own data, because it can just go on indefinitely. So I'm quite pressed for I am quite strict in saying to people, look, if not now, when? Otherwise, no. Right? That's I want either a no answer or a when answer. I don't want a maybe answer. So, but I take that on board. Can I circle back to the Euro story, because I really like that, and we recently almost went down the path of getting a little sketch done by a cartoon artist on a story of one of the real customers and what he or she did and how they got the hero of the day, etc., etc. Those things seem to work, right? Depicting a Euro scenario.
I mean, it can do, but I think it's a nice to have. I think it's a nice to have. What I would be doing is engaging with your customers to understand how they wish to be spoken with. So if you know that there's something that people really resonates with people, so whether that's customer testimonials, whether it's reverse engineering the vocabulary that people are using to talk about your product and then making those your core marketing messages for a campaign, try that. But don't think, oh, that's a nice to have, I'm going to go see if that works. I think look at what you already have, understand the metrics and the success metrics around it, and then reverse engineer from that the solutions that you want to be taking forward and testing. Like, you have to test that material. Otherwise, you're taking the cash that you're going to spend on a cartoon about a hero journey, and that's lovely, but that might not get you anything. That might just put another 3 months delay on what you're doing. So I would definitely, sorry, I also have a hard stop. I'm so sorry, because this has been fascinating. Francois, thank you so much for hosting.
Yeah.
Let's connect on LinkedIn, because I think it would be great to take the conversation
Yeah,
forward.
and I was going to say before a couple other people dropped off, Riaan, I think it typically goes without saying, most people here will absolutely connect with you. I'm not offering you their free services, but I'm sure, for sure, Amy and I would be happy to jump on another one. So if we want to kind of talk about your discovery in a couple of weeks, this isn't the last conversation. But thanks, Jack. Thanks, Eloise. I know it's Friday. People got busy schedules. Thanks, Riaan. Thanks for making time.
Thank you, really. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And we'll see everybody on LinkedIn, I'm sure.
Take care, guys. Great to meet you.
Well.
Bye.